Okay, welcome to the first County Business Sports podcast, where we'll be conversing with the great and the good from the world of sport and business about sport in Sussex, from foot golf to fencing, from wakeboarding to weightlifting and everything in between. We'll be sure to cover it and asking our guests what makes them tick and why business and sport go hand in hand. The podcast is sponsored by James Ross Jewellers, family jewellers in Sussex for generations. Now, I couldn't do this podcast alone, so I'm delighted to introduce a real sports expert, SBT sports editor, our very own stato, the legend that is Lawrence Elphick.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right, you?
Mate, I'm ready to go.
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. I think we best introduce our first guest, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I think you should. You're going to do it, aren't you?
Well, you told me you was going to do it.
Really?
Mate, it's your gig, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, all right then. Yeah. Well, let's introduce the one and only, the legend, the Brighton Hove Albion legend that is Kerry Mayo. Welcome, Kerry.
Oh, cheers, Loz. Cheers, Sam. Kind words. You say Kerry Mayo, although these days look a bit more like Bill from Guess Who.
I don't know who that is.
Mate, I've got Guess Who for the kids. He ain't changed either.
No, exactly. I have noticed more weight around the face, beard, no hair, ginger. Bill from Guess Who. There we go.
All right, okay. Well, I have noticed one thing, though. Out of the three of us, I'm different. Do you know why that is?
Got more hair.
I've got hair.
Oh, yeah. Mate. Well, that won't last long, though. Are you working with me, mate?
A bit harsh.
There's not enough hours in a day to work with Sam, is there?
Love it. Mate, we're going to jump straight in, I think, aren't we, Loz?
Yeah, I think so. Let's get on with it, Kerry. How you doing anyway? You all right?
Really good. Family all well, healthy.
Good.
And no troubles over Christmas or festivities. I know the new variant of Omicron sort of blasting everyone at the moment, but on a positive, we're all safe, we're all well.
We don't want to go there.
We're here to have a good time, good fun, and let's get chatting.
Yeah, nice one. Well, listen, you're a bit of a legend, obviously, at the Albion.
Kind of you to say,
for one reason or another. And but I want to know.
About the other.
You was born, I know, in Hayward Heath. But I want to know about. I want to start with. Tell me about football growing up, because I'm always intrigued when a professional sportsman such as yourself, an absolute athlete, where do you start when it comes to learning the trades? You know, I want to know. Tell me about your early days growing up and playing football.
Well, yeah, so I was born in Cookfield Hospital, which is no longer there. Their offices and residential now. But when I was 3 years old, my parents moved us down to Peacehaven, obviously a local seafront town there. And from about the age of 5 or 6, not even that really, 6 or 7, I got a ball for Christmas and just started kicking it around the house and just around the green outside of the house. And before you know it, back then, obviously, when you used the street lights as floodlights, it was, and you stayed out kicking a ball with the people in your street or whatever, and it was literally time to go home. Is when your mum came out and dragged you in for your dinner, sort of thing. That was time to go home.
Curlers.
Well, you know, sort of your dinner's ready. Winning goal. You know, that sort of thing. And you get back sort of 20 minutes. Then she comes out again, then dragged you by your ears, sort of thing. You're coming in now. That's it. Say bye. And it was you either played until your mum took you home. The street lights come on as your floodlights, or until somebody that owned the ball took the ball back with them. It's one of those.
It's my ball, I'm taking home.
Exactly that. So from a young age, liked just kicking around the football. It's just one of my mates from the street, really. John Whitmore, his name, I'll name him. He sort of said to me, "Oh, you're a really good footballer. You should come and play for Peacehaven Pirates." And at the age of under 9s, this was. I went along and played. I was playing a year above myself, and I was as good as they were, if not better, sort of dribbling the ball and everything. And it went from there. So when I was 11, going through the years, the local guy that ran all of the clubs at the youth team at Peacehaven Pirates there, Chris Pullen, he put 4 or 5 of us through to Brighton Hove Albion just for a trial, the old Newtown Road church there.
How old were you then, mate?
11.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just went along there, and every year Brighton just kept asking me back and signed schoolboy forms from the age of 14 for the last 2 years of school, 15, 16, and then got a youth team place, YTS, for 2 years before making it pro. So it all started from just kicking the ball about in the street with my mates, really.
And did you always plan to be sort of a defensive player or midfielder?
No, when I started, I just enjoyed scoring goals. So
as we all do,
exactly,
yeah.
So I started off up front, and then because, believe it or not, I was quite pacey when I was younger. So I had a good left foot. So I always played sort of left wing.
Really?
I did, yeah. So
okay.
Scored plenty of goals.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sound so
right.
surprised. Sorry about that.
Well, you see me over the years, Lodge, and I'll get slower and slower with age. And so the more slow you get, the further back you end up. Hence that's the end of my career. But it was a good experience. I enjoyed it when I first started with Brighton. Actually, I was a left winger, left midfielder. Liam Brady was manager, and I remember a game down at Peacehaven and Towscombe, funnily enough, the first team there, and I was only 16. I was at YTS, and he played me with a lot of the other pros. It's a pre-season game, so it was a good experience for me. Playing with players that I'd paid to go and watch in recent years, but also playing against a team that I used to go and watch as a boy, Peacehaven and Towscombe, growing up, sort of thing. Well, I never used to pay. I used to jump over the wall, but that's another story.
Was that running away or?
No, that was jumping over the wall to get in, so I didn't have to pay the 50p.
Brilliant.
But,
you tight.
Well, I was brought up in a council estate, didn't have much money, holes in my shoes. They used to talk to me and everything, but it was a real privilege. And Liam Brady was manager, and he's, all you could hear. I was obviously over by the dugout, left winger. He's shouting on there, "Get the ball to Kerry." And then the ball would come to me and take him on. I was absolutely knackered by the end of the game, because all he wanted me to do was get the ball, dribble, and I'd win a throw in, win corners, I'd get crosses in.
What was it like playing under?
Well, Liam Brady loved me. I mean, he was a left winger himself, and he's an absolute legend of the game. And he nicknamed my left foot the Wand. That's where the nickname the Wand came from. And when somebody like Liam Brady says you've got a wand of a left foot, you've got to take that, because he's a real legend of the game.
I thought he was called the Wand because he was more like Hermione Granger out of Harry Potter.
Well, same colour hair and all that. Ed Sheeran, Bill from Guess Who.
Mate, it looks like it goes on. Ledge.
I was thinking, when it just go back something, didn't it make you laugh when, because we all used to play football out in the streets, and that's how you started talking about it. And your mum used to call you out and say, "You're right, it's time to come back in, it's getting dark," and that sort of thing. Doesn't matter who was winning, you could be losing 20 goals to 1, and someone would shout out, "Right, next goal wins."
That's it, mate.
And it always made me laugh that you could be 21-0 down and you score the goal and still win.
And everyone still celebrates. But then that's the beauty of football. Like, the football's the winner there, right?
Do you think that? But do you think it's still like because I remember that growing up. I remember we used to go you'd go over the park or whatever in the summer holidays, 9 o'clock in the morning, and you'd play until it started getting dark. You'd been over there do a 12-hour. Do football marathons now. That it's a bit tricky to play in that now. But when you're younger, you can just play all day, didn't you?
Yeah, you don't even think about it. You don't even stop for food or drink, do you? Just keep going.
Yeah.
And back then, you didn't take a drink with you or anything. It was a case of you got 50p or something, and you used to walk to the shops together, didn't you? Get like sweets and drink, and then go back and play again. That was your half time at 3 o'clock, sort of thing.
But do you think that has changed? Like now with kids, it's not the same, is it? Like even going out and playing in the street and stuff like that, you just don't.
It's not the same. I mean, times have changed. It used to be sort of the back door was always open policy with neighbours and things, and it was a community. It was friendly. And nowadays, you can't do that. I'm nervous every time my kids go out of my sight, and they're 11 and 9. It's at what age do you let them go by themselves? And it's they've got to flow the nest and learn, become independent.
It's hard,
sort of,
isn't it?
Children, young adults, etc. But it's hard in today's society with so much social media that gets branded about, and the horrifying things that you see.
Yeah, of course.
It's terrifying. So it's scaremongering, but you look at all these sort of paedophiles that have come out of the woodworks in the 70s. They were always there, but because the social media wasn't around, they were never revealed. So exactly. So I don't think things have changed in that sense, other than people are more aware of it, and but it's like anything in life. The world's evolving, business evolving, we're evolving, and we've got to move with it, or otherwise you're stuck in the times.
Kez, you made your debut at 18 under I believe Jimmy Case.
Yes.
As manager. What can you remember about that? Was it against Carlisle?
It was. I just turned 19 actually a month before.
Oh.
But that's all right.
Sorry, I got that wrong.
Do homework, Loz.
Taxi for one.
Future reference, Loz. Might want to do your homework before you went.
Arsenal fair. 18, call it 18 and a half.
I'm going to have to change that stato to
Yeah,
something.
sorry about that. Yeah. Begins with S, but yeah.
It was against Carlisle. It was on a cold Wednesday night at the Goldstone ground, and we were 3-0 down at the time. And Jimmy and I played against West Ham on the Saturday morning in the youth team game, and Rio Ferdinand and Frank Lampard were playing for West Ham then.
Right.
And we beat them 4-2. I was centre midfield and scored a couple of goals.
Right.
And I basically outrun Frank Lampard and outplayed him. But then he wasn't in the West Ham team or anything. You know, he was just a sort of first year pro like myself, or he was in the youth team, whatever. And Jimmy sort of gave me my debut last 10 minutes, and I put Maskell through. I think it's Maskell, can't remember. I think it was him, and he scored. But I had an assist within 10 minutes. We lost 3-1. But the following game, we had Fulham away at Craven Cottage on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And not only did I start, I was on free kicks, I was on corners, I was on long throws.
That magic one, mate.
Oh, it's brilliant. I loved it. And then Mickey Adams and Alan Cork were manager of Fulham. So my first full day was Fulham away. And Mickey Adams was manager of Fulham. Cork was assistant, who obviously later on went on to become Brighton manager and assistant. As we're walking off, I won't say what Corky said to me, but it's basically along the lines, where the hell do you come from? Because they had no background on me because I hadn't played previously.
Right.
So, and Chippy and a few of the old Brighton players played for Fulham that day. Chippy never used to get substituted, he got subbed. And it's a real Raw of the Rovers moment for me, that was, really was.
Amazing.
Do you know who Chippy is, by the way?
No.
Richard Carpenter.
Richard Carpenter, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Hence why he's called Chippy.
Cheers, lads.
Sorry, just keep it sound.
Keeping me on my toes, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, sorry.
Do you know the funny thing is about nicknames in football is that I hardly know anyone's real names.
Yeah,
Really?
That's,
My teammates, because Chippy, obviously I know Richard Carpenter, but Semtex, Danny Cullett, there's just loads.
Sorry, his nickname was Semtex.
You interviewed him enough times over the years, didn't
Yeah,
you?
but I never called him that, and he never told me he was called that.
You're right not to call him that.
Hard as nails, Danny Cullett.
If you'd have called Danny Semtex, you'd have seen why.
Oh, right, okay.
But then, it's a true story, obviously. You know their names, but we never used to call each other by first name, surname or anything. It was always nicknames. And sometimes when being interviewed over the years, people say, what about such and such? You, who? Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Well, if you don't know
that's part of the changing room banter, which you can't. No, I've played football my life, you know what I mean? And you can't, no matter what level you play at, whether it's Sunday League, Ryman, professional, I'm sure it all just feels down. But that changing room banter and that, like you said,
it's nothing like it.
You
nothing,
can't beat it,
and there's nothing that can replace it, is there? Like
No.
I stopped playing, I don't know 10 years ago or something. Like, you know what I mean?
Really?
Like,
I thought you still played.
yeah, mate, getting on a bit now, and but when you look at it like that, and you just think there's nothing I've done. Like, obviously, I run firm balls, so it's great that I've got that still have that little bit. And I'll go over and see the.
Yeah.
I was up this week in Manchester, and I still love like the lads playing. And I over buy them a beer after, and I'll get that little bit. But there's nothing that can compare to that just changing room camaraderie and that togetherness that you get in the changing room is awesome.
And it's so true that you say that, because that's how it was in football.
Yeah.
Obviously, times have changed over the years now, but the practical jokes that used to be had on each other, and it was like a dog-eat-dog world in the world of a dressing room, and it sort of stayed in those four walls. Yeah. It's 24/7 absolute Mickey taken out of each other. If you didn't like it, don't take the Mickey out of somebody else.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And there was no bullying or anything like that. It was just, if you could get a laugh out of the lads, you'd done a good job. And also, it's important to take the Mickey out yourself in that environment, because then it's not. It doesn't hurt. When you've got 25 lads on the training ground taking a Mickey out, you can't help but think, that's not right. But when you're giving it, you've got to expect it, and it goes. You'll be fish and chip paper from 1 minute to the next. It's one of those. I'll move on to the next one. And there was no one that used to get bullied. I say bullied. It's like banter. In today's world, it's bullying, and rightly so. But you
Back
just
then.
moved. Back then, it was just banter from one person to the next. No one had a go at any more than anyone else, because everyone was continuously just giving it to each other, and it was just good camaraderie. It was great for the team spirit, great for the team building. But then moving away from that to the business world, is a real eye opener, because you can't go into a working office, and have that same camaraderie, because you will upset somebody because they're not used to that environment. And it's totally understandable. So you just need to be very careful. And you know, my HR file was up here, and I'm slowly getting down to there. And I've just about got it now after being in business for a few years.
We'll come on to the business thing in a little bit, Kez, but I just wanted to ask you about the changing room stuff, because you shared a changing room. Obviously, you were playing with the likes, we mentioned them earlier, Danny Semtex Cup, Guy Butters. I'm not going to go through all the others, but you know, Richard Carpenter. There was a few names in there, and also Charlie Oatway, of course.
Yeah.
Now, I'm vaguely aware of some stuff that went on, but what I want to know is can you tell us about some of the stories that did happen in the changing rooms? I mean, we were talking about it off air, and you were mentioning about quite often the game was won in the tunnel, but I want to know what happened. Give us some examples. Come on.
Well, I mean, there's so many practical jokes that are not right for this show. But I can't say, because
that's the explicit one that we put out
exactly.
later.
Just leave the words out.
I'll tell you a good one in a minute. But going on about the and that'll keep people listening, because it's a good one, I promise you. But going on about you saying games were won in the tunnel, back to how it was in them days, and it's not so much now. And you can see on loads of clips like the Vieira Keane, the battles, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, of course.
Always in the tunnel before the games. And for us, it was no different. We used to, Mickey Adams was probably the best at doing this. He used to say to us, look, let them go out. The bell's gone. Just wait here. We're ready. Let them wait. And then as we're going out, he'd say to us and remind us again, stand opposite the person you're playing against, you're marking, and tell them what you're going to do to them in the game. Obviously, I can't repeat that here, but you used to look across and you used to, you know, you wouldn't be smiling as you said it. Danny would, because he'd enjoy it, sort of thing. But you'd say what you're going to do to these players, and then you get in your position, you walk out onto the pitch, and for the first probably 10, 15, 20 minutes, you know, I'd be left back, for example, the winger I'd just spoken to in the tunnel 20 minutes ago. When he got the ball, he might be as quick as anything and could do me for pace. But because of what I said to him in the tunnel, I reminded him on the pitch, he'd turn out, pass, go back, go out the other side. And it's just the game. The game was won in the tunnel because psychologically we got into their heads. Fear-mongering, if you like.
Intimidation.
A bit like the government with us these days. You know, fear-mongering, scaremongering they call it. So, but it worked. It ruined their game plan, because they had a game plan and we thwarted that in the tunnel before the game. Then we went about our business, because that was part of our game plan.
Yeah.
And there, you know, we had 2 back-to-back championship winning promotions off the back of, you know, psychologically winning the game in the tunnel and having that camaraderie in the dressing room, the banter and everything else. But moving on from that, you think I had sort of 14 different managers, don't forget, in my time at Brighton. Yeah. So I took the best bits and the not so good bits from all of them, and I've taken that into the world of business for leadership. Because some players, and you know, people like Paul Brooker, for example, 5'6", skinny as a rake. There's nothing of him. He's never going to win a header, but he was a really quick winger. So you knew, give the ball to his feet, take him on. You wouldn't like plant the ball up to his chest where he's got because he's going to get smashed. He's going to get smashed like the microphone there. But he would. You know, he's going to come through the back. He's never going to win a tackle. Yeah. So you play to his strengths and his weaknesses. And Bozzy's a sort of player the manager needs to put his arm round. And, you know, G him up, bit of confidence. Come on, you're the best winger out there, the best feet, you're quick, you've got a great cross, this, that and the other. Go and do your strengths. Don't worry about winning headers, that sort of thing. And leave the headers to the people at the back or whatever, like us. And it was, you know, but then there was people, maybe like Charlie, who you mentioned. Yeah. Who's a proper prankster, by the way. He's the king of pranks. Chippy, but that, Danny, they're the sort of people you probably need to have a go at. You know, really sort of rally them up to get them ready and fired up for it. Right. So it's different players have different on switches, you know.
But you're right, as you sort of mentioned, like you take that into the business world, like you said, like it's all about then culture, isn't it? Like the culture within the changing room, that culture that team ethic that you're talking about. It's the same in business, isn't it? You've got.
Well, it is. If you've got a sales team, you never know what's going on behind closed doors at home. Okay, so you might have somebody that's vulnerable. You might have somebody that's, you know, maybe had troubles growing up. They might have troubles in their relationship. They might have ill children, or their parents might be ill. You never know what's going on. There's always trials and tribulations. We all have hard times. Yeah. And as humans, we protect ourselves. We think we're protecting ourselves by just keeping quiet and hiding it and going to work and switching off from that whilst we're at work. So you never know what's going on behind closed doors. So it's important, I think, just to never judge a book by its cover. Don't just flick through the pages, read the pages. Because the pages are your staff. Read up on them. And just know, just put your arm around. Always have an open door policy. Don't shut your door from them and let them make an appointment or have. Always be open, and because they might not be performing at work because of what's going on at home, which is generally 9 times out of 10 what is happening. So rather than having a go at people and saying, well, you've not hit, blah blah blah, we're going to do this or discipline. How about, right, is there anything I can help with? Come and have a cup of tea. Let's take them out for lunch. Just have a general chat. Barriers down. Everything all right at home.
Unless, of course, they're an absolute rubbish salesman, then just get them out.
If they're rubbish, they're rubbish. Go and do something else at your mindset or what you're good at. But don't. It's just about managing people in different ways. Some people need a good kick up the backside. Some people need an arm around them, and some people, you never know what's going on. So
what did you need?
Treat different.
What did you need when you was playing football? Did you?
I'll be honest with you, an arm around me, because you give me a kick up the backside, and I was like, I don't really want to do well for you. Yeah. I was like...
Criticism. Some people, I was just saying, some people don't receive criticism that well.
No, exactly. But for managers telling me, like Liam Brady, for example, I've got a wonderful left foot, all of a sudden I'm thinking I've got the best left foot in the world. Give it to me and I can play a ball anywhere, and I had that confidence about me. But it's when you got Mickey Adams saying to me at half-time, that I've played a ball down the line, it's gone out of play. Oh, Kerry's got his bloody Adidas stand finders on, hasn't he? And then you got all the lads jumping on me. I think, I've got to go play second half yet, lads. And then the ball comes to me, and I'm thinking, oh God, don't kick it out. That's
it, because it's on your mind.
So it's, for me, it's like, get your arm around me. So it works for some and not all, and everyone's different. Everyone's an individual, and you've got to treat people like that.
But do you think that with the, like you sort of mentioned there about that, and there's obviously talk about soft skills, I guess, really, like, which the impression, I guess, of, under sort of, you think about Ferguson and people like that, their whole hairdryer treatment and stuff, like, not a lot of soft skills going on there potentially. But was it that there is, like you say, everyone's treated differently? Sometimes if you've got that in your locker and you're able to have those soft skills, that sort of conversation with people, you'll get more out of them. Like you said, you personally responded to someone giving you a little bit,
confidence
that's a bit of a confidence boost, and you go, okay, now you're walking out 10 foot tall, and you're gonna that thing that you've done in the first half, you forget about that because you've just pinged the beauty into and set someone up or whatever. You know what I mean?
Exactly that. And I think also recognition of when you have done something well. Pat on the back or making big news about it. Because people are very quick to say, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. So if someone does it and they do it well, let them know. Rewards, incentives, that sort of thing. Because then all of a sudden, it's a bit like teaching a dog new tricks, Like it is. So if a dog does something good, you give them a reward. It's no different in life. Like if someone does, one of the sales guys gets good selling or something like that, or someone does well within the business, give them a reward and some incentive, or give them incentives, something to drive towards, rather than just targets and KPIs, because everyone knows in a sales job, KPIs and targets are there to be had. But if you don't get there for 2 or 3 months, it's not the end of the world. You're still trying your hardest to do it. So
I think that's it. As long as someone, when you relate that to football, you relate it to sales, whatever it looks like, as long as someone's giving you their all and you can tell that they're doing that, you go, you know what I mean? That's what it's about, isn't it?
It's true. And if somebody's given their all, but then still not quite at the level that
you want them,
then you can have a chat with them, give them another chat. And if they're still not improving, then you try and find them something they're good at, or it might be time for them to, in football terms, change clubs. Because your philosophy...
Or it might be something that they just need training at.
Exactly, more coaching.
They need a bit of help.
Exactly.
Yeah, a bit of coaching.
Yeah, a bit of coaching, sit down, is there anything we can help you with? So football is so similar to business in many ways with that sort of thing. And that's my experience of 14 years and 14 different managers, all right, with one club, but taking the best bits and the worst and keeping hold of the best bits is why my man-to-man management skills are which is why I'm a people person. I'm always open for discussions and everything else. I always make time for people because life is too short and there's a lot of stress. We live in a very stressful environment, work-related, where people have to hit deadlines, have to achieve and this, that and the other, and no one's standing still anymore. And even more so where people now have had to adapt more than ever, working from home, they're not in the office. And then you've got that separate thing, work-life switch off.
Yeah.
And keeping it separate. How would you, if you're working from home in a stressful environment, finish work and your kids come in from school and then you have to do the dinners, get the bath times and then settle them down. But it's trying to switch off from work, knowing that you've got the email to send, knowing you've got a deadline to do, get a brochure out or proposal or something like that. It's managing your time. Again, that's another skill which...
Are you good at that? Work-life
I am,
Can you switch off?
Yeah, so what I do is I dedicate the mornings. I've always got my mobile phone on me, okay? So people can always, or my clients can always get hold of me if needed, and I can always send and receive emails. But what I do is I take my children to school in the morning, and I'd go for a 45-minute hour walk with the dog, on the downs or something. Yeah. And I've still got my calls, I've still got my emails, but I'm in an environment that's calm. Then I get home, dog's away, then I start working from home, or I go out on the road, I go to meetings, etc. But I do it in a calm manner. That's my downtime, is early in the morning, whereas some people like to start early, finish early.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but that's just my personal preference. Yeah. So my work day starts when I wake up, really, because the phone's always there, so people can contact me and I'll always answer the phone. But personally, I won't be in front of my laptop till about 10 in the morning, and then I'm in the zone, and I've got a cup of tea there in the zone. I've done my walk for an hour, drop the kids off, I know they're at school, I know they're safe, and then that's me, I've smashed the day. And if my wife's at home, great, she'd do whatever she's doing, or she'd be at work herself. But it's just about, then the kids come home, I know I've worked hard, but again, my laptop's open, my phone's on, so if I do need to send an email, I can do. But it's just about, and then weekends for me, my phone's on, but that's my family time.
You've got to have that. I think it's important to have that. I think it's so important to have that. That's something I've really struggled with. Like when I talk on the other podcast and stuff about, work-life balance, and I struggle. I struggle to get that switch off.
It's hard because when you've got quite a few things going on work-wise, you might, and you find when you're sleeping, you're still thinking about all the thousands of things going through your head, and you feel like you haven't slept, and you have slept, but you've still got work going on in your head. And it's knowing when to switch off. So it's really hard to do, which is why that hour in the morning, walking the dog, and whether it's windy, rain, shine, or whatever, it's time just for me, just a bit of fresh air, walk. I feel better because I've done 4 or 5k walk, and it sets me up for the day.
Someone gave me a tip once, which was, if you're lying in bed, because I was always one of these people, where I used to work, and I'd be lying in bed, I'd be thinking about what I got to do for the day, and I couldn't go back to sleep, and it seems obvious now, and probably a lot of people do it, but to me, it didn't even cross my mind back then. But get a dictaphone, get your mobile phone, get a pen and paper. Whatever's in your mind, write it down, and then you'll go back to sleep because you won't forget about it. And when you wake up in the morning, there it is.
I've been told about that as well.
Yeah,
I've never tried
it. Works. It works.
It does. I've got a little notepad that I have next to my bed, and sometimes it is that I'm literally lying there and thinking. I'll just go. I'll get up, and it might be that I'll simply write an idea or I'll write a to-do list of what's got to happen. And as soon as that's what I've actually got to do tomorrow. So you just boom, and you can put it away, and you can go back and try and go back to sleep.
You do find as well some of your best ideas when you're asleep.
Yeah.
And you wake up. Oh yeah, I must remember that in the morning.
Mine are on the toilet. I don't know what that said. What does that say about me?
Mate, probably not too different from me. Mrs. does nothing at the time I'm on there.
We all do emails on the toilet.
We need tin posts.
And every now and again, do a Sudoku. It's good for the mind.
Clears the mind.
It does. Yeah.
That's what they say.
But can I come back to this funny story? Do you mind?
Sorry. Yeah, because I was. Thank you.
A bit waylaid.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I'll tell you.
Who's doing this interview?
Yeah, sorry.
Go on, please.
I'll tell you 2 stories on one person, right? And then that'll be it. I won't tell any more. And he won't. Ooh.
Bit droopy there, mate.
Yeah, sorry, mate. It happens.
It's an age thing, sir.
It's an age. I'm not getting any younger. But he won't mind me telling me this because I've said it before, and he sort of laughs about it. He's a prankster himself. Can you still hear me, all right?
Yeah, all good, mate.
So everyone knows Robbie Savage, right?
Yeah.
So he'd been Leicester, Man United, Leicester, Derby County, and when Mickey Adams had him at Leicester, Mickey come back for his second stint at the Albion, and he signed Robbie Savage in on loan.
That's right, I remember.
bearing in mind at this point, you know, we're on like a few grand a week, not mega money or anything like that. We was playing at with Dean Stadium. Robbie Savage come from Pride Park, Derby, and just come from the Prem and everything. He's on like 52 grand a week, right? So you can imagine, can't you? Like his players come in, a big personality as well, loves a laugh and a joke. Yeah. So every morning he'll come in, we all get changed. And do you remember a lad called Kevin McLeod?
Yeah,
Come from Everton, Swansea.
Yeah. Left foot. He had a wonderful left foot.
So he was left winger, I was left back. Anyway, we were both injured for about, I think I was injured my knee for about a month, but he was out for a couple of weeks. And we was on the injured table. Malcolm Stewart used to do all the physio and everything, get the lads out to train, then he'd treat the injured. Yeah. And then at 10:30, right, go and have a cup of tea. And then come back at 11. So you had like half an hour tea break for like. In that half an hour, all the lads were out training. As Sav would come in after training, they'd have no toes, no ends of his socks, they'd be gone. His knees, his elbows, right? Jeans, everything tied up, really tight knots. You had to cut them to free them. So he'd come in and try to go home in short, like Robinson Crusoe. It's brilliant, right? So we did this for about a week. And I'll be honest with you, I did do it once. And then after that, I didn't do it because there's other players that got involved. Yeah. And it was a bit of a cult, not against him, but he was a character and always taking the mick out of us lot. It's just brilliant. Yeah. And it got to the end of the week, he's like, lads, seriously. And he was staying in a local hotel in Brighton, and he'd go down the lanes and he'd spend like probably 3 or 4 grand every day getting new clothes. You know, in a designer shop. I think his Profile's best customer for about a month he was.
Oh yeah.
And he'd come in here all this dapper gear next day. We'd do it again. And I hope you kept the receipt, sort of thing. And lads, seriously, you've got to stop this. My wife's in the credit card. Like for my clothes, she's moaning. We're down to our last 9 million as it is. Right? So you can imagine that's the best comeback of all comebacks. Like, let's stop. It's costing me it's down to our last 9 million. It's absolutely brilliant. We're in stitches, and he was there for a month. Right, so every week weekend he went back home to his family, and every week he come down in a different sports car. Yeah, and he come down his final week of being on loan. He had this Lamborghini Diablo, nice white one. You're talking like 180 grand's worth of kit. It's a lovely car, amazing. And it's only up as high as your waist, sort of thing, so low to the ground. And Macca being, nothing against him, but Macca being from Liverpool, Scouse. He's like, Kez, let's get the keys, la. I've never driven a Lambo, la. Oh, Macca, no, that's too much money. If something goes wrong, I can drive one of these, la. I was like, cry. And for whatever reason, I agreed to it. Oh no! So we taken this Lamborghini down Lewis Road, down past the speed camera. There's one speeding ticket. 4 times. We got back. And we're driving through the old Sussex University where the training ground was, up and over these speed humps. So he's going slow, obviously. He's got his car. We got to the top. We parked it in. There's one. You remember the old training ground was? At the back of the canteen there was one disabled spot. Yeah. So we parked it in there. And as we get out, we've rang security. Security. I said, Robbie Savage, a Premier League player, has just parked his Lamborghini in the one disabled spot up at the sports pavilion.
No.
You might want to come and have a look. And we didn't think nothing of it. Training finishes, everyone's showered and all, we're all having lunch as we do after training. Next minute though, kit man Ken comes in. Sav, you might want to get out here. Your car's about to be put on the back of a load lorry.
Being towed.
Macca and I looked at each other and think, oh no, what have you done? We've gone too far now. And Sav's come back out, and I'll kid you not, he's like, hey, what do you think you're doing there, pal? He goes, and he's this only young lad. He must have been sort of late 20s. I say young lad, late 20s. He's taking photos of the car and everything before he's about to load it up. He goes, get your thing off my car. What are you doing? He goes, here, look, there's 300 quid. You haven't seen me, just take the rest of the day off, sort of thing. Put his money back in his pocket. And then he goes, oh, well, it's on camera now. He goes, let me have a look at the pictures. And stupidly, he gave him the camera.
Delete.
Stamped it, broke down. There's 300 quid. Get yourself a decent camera, right? He goes, just go. No one's seen this. And went, oh no, so it's cost him 600 quid. 4 speeding tickets.
Oh, mate.
And this guy's just gone away about his way. He goes, tell your boss you dropped your camera and the car had gone by the time you got there. It's absolutely brilliant.
I bet he couldn't wait to come back on loan, could he?
Honestly,
He never returned.
He never returned. I don't know why, but he was one of those where he's a laugh and a joke, but he's come from a Premier League club. He's he's a multi-millionaire. He's done well in the game. He's a real character. But he's come to a dressing room where we had that camaraderie, and we thought, if you're going to come here, there's no players bigger than us lot.
We've started talking about business now.
Yeah.
You retired in 2009. I've missed out quite a chunk. But you retired in 2009, and how difficult did you find it to transition into a business and be?
Yeah, really difficult, because when I retired, I was in the process of re-signing an extension of my contract, and only for another year. And then obviously March 28th, 2009 against Tranmere Rovers was my last professional game.
Yeah.
Just a freak accident, really. I sort of landed awkwardly on my hip, same point of impact. The Tranmere striker landed on me as well.
Right.
And my pubic bone just sort of did, it was not pleasant. Yeah. And that was the end of my professional career. And ever since, obviously, the contract then was withdrawn. So, because I'm no use to the club then. And it was then when I realised that loyalty really sort of stands for nothing in a business. Very quickly, because I've been with the club ever since the age of 11, played 413 games for them, won promotions and everything else, and all of a sudden they wouldn't honour the contract because the money I was on supposedly would get free players in, younger players, and that's when I knew it was become a business.
That's hard.
Yeah, so, and that was one of the lessons that I learned when I say about putting your arm around people sometimes and rewarding them for doing good.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For me personally, I felt like they didn't care, if that makes sense. I felt like after everything I've given to that club, and I still support them, obviously, I'll come watch them as much as I can. And I'll always be a Brighton fan. But I'm not bitter about it, but I just feel that they could have dealt in the nicest possible way. If Tony Bloom was chairman when I retired,
right,
I think I would have been looked after.
Okay.
Do you think that's down to...
Because the finances wouldn't have been a problem.
Okay.
That's my view.
Do you think a lot of why you sort of that situation, looking at that situation, there was a lot to do with a lack of communication maybe with you at that stage, then, or because like you said, how you talk to someone about that situation and go, so, this is what's happening and this is...
So obviously there's a Professional Football Association union, which I was PFA rep. They can only give you back then they only gave you so much advice, and there's all of the courses available to retrain and relearn whilst you're playing.
Yeah.
I mean, I did all my coaching badges and everything like that, but that's only good if you know somebody within a managerial role to get your foot in the door to coach.
Yeah,
Brighton didn't even take me back as a coach or anything, and whereas they look after their players a lot more now.
Yeah.
A lot more, which is the right way to do it, because they get. And this is nothing against Dick Nikes, is a great chairman, but at the time the club didn't have the finances.
Yeah, that's
with renting from Withdean Stadium, we didn't have renting a training ground. We didn't have the stadium we got now. We didn't have the training facilities. We didn't have the finances. So it was a totally different era financially. So it was I was sort of a year away really from being looked after by the club in that sense financially. Not to say that they would have done, but I just think it would have been a different story.
And is that personally, is that hard to take? Or does that play on your mind?
No, it's just
you just thought.
Well, it's just something that at the time I thought of, and I just thought maybe they could have looked after me better personally. But then it's not their job to do it. It's not in the contract or anything. But from that and that experience is why I take it into leadership myself in business. And I like to reward people for doing well. And loyalty goes a long way as well. If somebody's doing a good job, I'm in the world of business telecoms, and when I ring companies or I get a lot of good referrals because of the service and support levels. And I might not be the cheapest, certainly not the most expensive, but because my customers are my clients and I get on well with them and first name terms, and if ever there's a problem, they ring me, like I said earlier about phone's always on. and I just take care of the problem for them. I get it sorted for them. They're happy. They go about their day and their business, and it's done. It's dealt with, and then we move. But, so when you're getting recommendations from companies, that's when you know you're doing well in business.
Yeah, quite right.
And that's what I'm really proud of, is that I've been able to use my experiences from football, from different managers, man management, different experiences, and take that into business. And when I'm networking, I'm good with people. I used to go after games, so I was man and match sort of thing. You go to the hospitality suite, all the business and directors are in there. You meet them and you chatting to them. And again, without realising it, subconsciously you're networking, but you're not, because you're not selling, but they're coming to pay to watch you play football. And then since I've retired, I've retained a lot of friendships from people I made when I used to go into the hospitality sector.
Because you're just building relationships.
That's
so much in
yeah.
life, whether it be football, whether it be business, whatever it is, people buy from people, so you build relationships.
They do, yeah.
Do you know, I found I had to justify networking to my other half. And I don't know if anyone else has ever found that. They probably understand it. I'm getting the impression, Kerry, your other half, Jenny, she's amazing, and she understands what you have to do. Sam, I'm not sure. You probably have to back that off every time. But I struggled to justify networking because it was seen as, you're just going out for a jolly up.
Yeah. Because you do build up friendships.
Yeah.
And you see people and you end up chatting away and you're having but the time comes is when someone needs something.
Yeah, they think of you.
Speak to Loz about that.
Yeah.
Speak to Sam about that.
Yeah.
And it's just referring.
Absolutely.
And there's enough pieces in the pie for everybody to have a piece. Different industries, same industries.
Yeah.
And you can do it without treading on anyone's toes or upsetting anybody. There might be myself and another couple of telecoms companies going, generally, you get 2 or 3. They need 2 or 3 proposals to choose one. And if you make it into the top 3, for me, that's a win. But if you're the chosen provider, then it's a double win. It's one of those where you've obviously made an impression for them to shortlist you. A bit like going winning awards. And so you know you've done well in the first instance, but to get it over that line, it's clearly when people buy from people, they trust in what you're going to
100%.
provide them with, and no one likes to lose. Let's be honest. No one likes to lose. Everyone's got that winning mentality. And when I played football, again, another life lesson in business. When I played football, if we lost at the weekend, that ruined my weekend. And that was my only time.
I was the same.
Yeah, that's the only time my wife and kids was the weekend. The rest of the time I was with the lads at football.
Yeah.
But that weekend I'd be grumpy.
Yeah.
So very quickly I've learned, regardless of whatever the result is, get home, spend quality time with your family, because players come and go, employees come and go, and family are there forever. Stick with what makes you happy. So Jenny and the kids make me really happy, and that's my happy place at home with them, or going out for a meal with them, or going to the park or theme park, or holidays with them. That is, so anything I do in business now allows me time to pay for us to go away for a holiday and spend quality time as a family together. We do as many days out as we can. It's not all about money. We go to the park, we take picnics, we take the dogs for walks.
It definitely.
Looking at social media, Kerry has more holidays than Judith Chalmers. Do you remember Judith? Do you remember Judith Chalmers?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jenny Chalmers.
Jenny Chalmers. Yeah.
I put that down to the wife. She has a budget, and she sets about her way to buy.
But there's one thing you talked a little bit about. We're talking. It's nice. We're obviously talking about the relationship with business and football and stuff like that. And you talked about leadership, managers and stuff like that. Tell us about just over the course. Who's the best manager you played under?
The best manager, for a number of reasons, Steve Coppell. He was in charge for 75 games for the Albion, and every one of those games I played. I was the only player to play 75 games. He then went to Reading because the stadium at the time wasn't ready for Brighton, so he went to the Medeski. And he actually tried to sign me for Reading, and I said no, because it's my testimonial season, which is probably my only regret in football, is because that season we were both in the Championship. Brighton went down, we got relegated. Reading went up to the Premier League.
I remember that. Yeah.
And Steve Coppell brought Reading back for my testimonial, which was supposed to be against Celtic, but that got cancelled. Or they wanted too much money or something. And I was having to pay Brighton Hove Council rent for the Withdean Stadium, for Christ's sake. Do you know what I mean? So it's, I can't just have a testimonial and not earn and lose money. So, so Steve Coppell kindly brought Reading back, and and my one regret was I didn't join Reading that season because it was good money.
Yeah.
He would have, and Nicky Shorey was there then as well, playing left back.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he would have played me left side centre half alongside Eva Ingemarson, who was an old Brighton player. I played alongside, and it would have been good, and it would have been nice to win a champion or get promoted to the Premier League.
Wow.
And play Premier League football. So that's the one regret I didn't.
Oh, man.
That's my only regret in football.
I know that. Yeah.
But because of my loyalty to the club and being a fan, I stayed. Because for me, it wasn't about the money.
What was Steve Coppell so good at there?
He was very calm influence. So you got your Mickey Adams, you got your Mark McGee's, and very shouty or when they want to be.
Yeah.
And Mark McGee was very good actually. He was very calm, but also typical sort of Scotsman. If he was angry, you knew about it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And no offence to Scottish out there, but this is Mark McGee. He'll take that on the chin. I'm sure he will. He's taken worse. And but Steve Coppell was just a very calm influence. It just the way that he spoke, the way he come across. He didn't leave any stone unturned. He had his own recording studio at home, and this was the first time I'd experienced it actually, like the evolution of football. He had his own recording studio at home, and he'd say we was playing, I don't know, Reading, for example, on a Saturday. He would get all of Reading's games on video, the last 6 games, and he'd just watch every one of them, and he'd make snippets, and then obviously see the patterns in their play, their set pieces, the way they play.
Yeah.
And then on a Friday morning before training, he'd have us all in, and there'd just be a 7-8 minute video of. So he's taken probably hours and hours to edit this. He'd show a video of all their patterns of how they play and who's right foot, left foot, what they do, and everything else.
Wow.
He'll go to cross, feint. He'll put it on his left, so keep him on his right. You knew everything. You knew before the game how they were going to play. You knew, their set pieces, what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were. So you knew your job before you even, on a Friday morning, before you even got to the ground on a Saturday against your opposition.
Blimey.
And he was so calculated. It was brilliant. And that was the first time I'd witnessed anything like that. Wow. It really was. So the analytics side of things, and he used to spend hours and hours in front of his TV or his studio, and just to make a clip.
Good Lord.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
And he did that himself because he had a team that he could do it for him, but he wouldn't trust them to do it. He needed to do it himself. To put this,
But then
it's like anything.
It's a bit like that in business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You have to do it yourself.
If you want something done properly, do it yourself. Because, say for example, they hired somebody to come in. Well, at the time, there wasn't any money in the club to hire somebody to spend hours to do that. So he'd done it himself. But say they come in and done it, and then it wasn't what he wanted, or we lost because they gave him the wrong information, that sort of thing. He would kick himself because he's.
It's interesting though you say that, because there's a flip side to that as well. Like, because I guess look, he's a manager and a leader, so but as a manager and a leader, there's certain elements sometimes that you have got to be able to trust. Otherwise, you employ people. Yeah, that's right. What's the point in employing people if you don't trust them to do their job? The idea is, I was speaking to James Dempster. We was talking a little bit about on a podcast about football and business, etc. But saying that, like, you've got to be able to trust. I employ people who are better at the job than I am, because you then trust them to be able to do that. The trust is a massive issue.
It's crucial.
It's crucial to any. It's fatal to a lot of businesses, because when. Again, going back to the football, like if no manager at Brighton would sign any player unless they did their due diligence on that player, they'd look into their family life. This is a bit different to business, but to a certain extent, you could take it into business. Yeah. They'd find out about their home life. They'd check their social media accounts. They'd make sure they're not rogues. They'd make sure they're not in and out of prison, or they'd make sure they're not down and outs, that sort of thing. They'd make sure they're comfortable. Don't have to have a children, but if they've got a nice family life and then staying out of trouble. Then that's the sort of player we want in our club, because it's we want them to do it for the right reasons, to provide for their family and give their all. If there's somebody that's been in and out of prison and doing sort of thing, and it's a double-edged sword, because everyone deserves a second chance, right? Yeah. But you need that trust initially to give somebody a job in the first place. If you haven't got that trust, then it's a gamble. And do you gamble with your business? I wouldn't like to. Some people do. But then we go on to the chance of, the other side of it, somebody that's been in and out of prison, a second chance, you put your arm around them, you get to know them, you trust in them to do something, they've got one chance. If you give them a second chance and they go and smash it and you reward them, they'll want to be better and better and better.
That's true.
So it's hard,
Yeah.
But again, it comes back to the man management. Individual people are managed differently.
Well, there's a podcast I listened to where they interviewed, I think it's a high performer, they interviewed James Timpson from Timpson's. You know that Timpson's, they employ, he goes into prisons and they employ, I think about 10% of their workforce are people who've come out of prison. Inmates who've come out of prison. But he says that the reward that you get, of course he says with anything in life you'll get some people that go, because the amount of people that said to him at the start, they're not going to just steal from you, and like, how do you trust them? He said, well, I'm giving them an opportunity and a chance, and how much then that loyalty, and he goes, some of that 10% are the best performing Timpsons in the country, because then people have been given that second chance, and they go,
and they don't want to muck it up again.
And they go like, someone's given me given me an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I guess that's like you said, there is two sides to that.
There is,
thing,
but this is where I'll go back to never judge a book by its cover. You know, don't just flick through the pages, read the pages, because
I've got Kerry, can I ask you this? Because I used to run a radio station, as you all probably know, and I remember one of the things I used to do, and you mentioned it earlier. Before someone joined the company, you check into their background. Obviously, their work history was the obvious thing. But I always used to look at the social media. And unfortunately, I probably did judge a book by its cover on those situations, because I'd look at the social media and it would give me an impression about how that person's life was lived, and whether I think that person would fit into the current framework I had. And that did affect my decision a few times. And I don't know whether that's right or wrong. Before you answer that, because I'm interested in your opinion, I remember also one particular occasion, Kerry. We were at a function together, and I was running said radio station at the time. And we were at a function. You were one of my guests on the table. And let's just say one had one or two libations, perhaps more than others. And we were dancing. And before I knew it, Mr. Mayo here had picked me up and put me on his shoulders. Now, bearing in mind, this is a black tie do. There's the world of Sussex business in this room with their other halves. And I'm on top of Kerry Mayo's shoulders, not knowing what the hell. You're quite a strong boy, actually. Not knowing what the hell to do until someone came out, and it was being filmed.
That's right.
It was being filmed. And till someone from the hotel came over and said, "You've got to get down, down." So eventually I got off.
Was that when I started doing the caterpillar?
Yeah, something like that. The next day, I realised that one of our other party had put this particular video of me being on Kerry's shoulders on social media, and I had that thought of, I'm the managing director of a radio station here. I probably shouldn't have this out in the public domain. Not being big-headed, just because... does that post the wrong impression? That sort of thing. So I had to demand that came down. Do you remember it, though?
I do remember it, and it was a good event. It was. And we've been to a few since as well. I can't put it on my shoulders these days, lads, but I was running fit then. But I do remember that. We was doing funny dancing. We had a good table. I remember the table being a good laugh, and we've been a few times. But it's.
Where do you stand with that sort of social media thing?
With I'll be honest with you, I don't really post too much. My wife does, and she tags me in it. Right. But generally, it's always us doing nice things. But it's the same with everyone in social media. No, very few people put real life problems on there, and which is right to a certain extent, because you've got to keep some life private. Yeah. But also, a lot of people portray falseness by just posting nice things. And again, you can only take so much from social media, because there's so many nice things out there, with the filters and everything else, or you're doing a nice event or something like that.
Best life, but
best life. Exactly.
And it's not a true reflection of society.
And then no matter what you do, you're going to be guilty or upset somebody. So, it's all right for them doing this, that, and you said about holidays. But, my wife and I, we work hard. And we reward ourselves. Our reward is from working hard is to spend quality time with each other on a holiday. Yeah. Whether it be in England, get in a car and drive down to Cornwall for 4 or 5 hours, or get on a plane for 2 hours, 3 hours. That's our reward. So we give ourselves incentives. And yes, all right, my wife will put it out on the social media, but it's not boasting. It's just showing quality time, family time, which is important, and it's away from business. Whereas you go on LinkedIn, it's all very much more business orientated. I leave my family off of there, but
touching on that point then, like you say about, because there's an element of it, and I think if we've learned something over the last couple of years from COVID, it's not that there's a way of still being able to say, like, or potentially say about maybe the negative stuff that's on there, because we post on stuff that all the time. This is, things are going really well. Oh, I've just won this account. I'm guilty of it. Yeah, we're doing really good and this, but people go, you're really busy. But the odd time I've posted as well, like from a mental health point of view, you post sometimes. It's okay to share.
I've seen them. It is.
It's okay to share the good with the bad.
So my brother does that a lot. He does this. I can't remember what he's called it, but basically you can go walk over the downs and just meet up, just have a chat, and just a bit of to help your mental health. And if there's anything on your mind, just talk about it. If there's not, if it's good or bad or anything. Yeah. And he reaches out, and that's a mental health post. My brother does a lot for them. So for me, mental health is also probably made worse by social media, by people seeing these people doing nice things, etc. So you just got to be very careful. I mean, we're all guilty of putting nice things on social media.
Yeah, and look, but I think everyone's aware that what people put first, not everyone's real. And I think the point I'm making is authenticity and honesty is so key in life, as well as what we potentially portray. Like I said, I'm probably as guilty as anyone of not doing that, but trying to live an authentic life and be as honest as possible. And I think that's something quite key. But interesting. But I think it's been great. I think the idea, like we put this together, the idea when you come to the idea, Loz, is to put this together, and it's been great. What a great guest to have on in regards to someone football. Lived that life and come and how we've been able to relate that to sport.
Kerry looks like he's going to burst into tears. He wants to keep going for another hour.
Do we need to come and give you?
Can we not do a 2-part?
Yeah.
This is part one.
Do we need to come and rub you and rub you? Sorry, I meant give you a hug. Come on. Sorry.
It's not that time of show.
Sorry. Taxi.
This is certificate 18.
Couple of things we just before I guess we go. Loz being the stato that he is it 12 goals that you scored?
I think it was 14.
14, yeah.
14
goals.
Sorry, I realised that before I changed yours.
You just trying to stitch. You're doing this. What's going to happen? You're going to stitch me up on every episode, didn't you? So it makes me look like I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm waiting for an deck to come through the door in a minute. Tell him 12. Tell me he was 18 when he made his debut. Tell him he looks like Bill from Guess Who. 14.
14 goals that you scored, mate.
14
apparently.
goals, yeah.
So what one stands out for you?
Probably the one against Derby County. They'd just come down from the Premier League. Yeah. We'd just got promoted to the Championship. Yeah. They were on big money. They had some big players. Ravanelli, Kinclatzy. George Kinclatzy.
Yeah, I remember
Ravanelli. That's Rob Lee and all that. So they had a decent squad. And it was at the Withdean Stadium on a Tuesday night. And I just remember it was the 89th minute, the corner come in, and I've headed it. It's gone down, hit the post, come back, and I've sort of side volleyed it, and it just went like a missile straight in the back of the net. The 89th minute, and that we beat Derby County 1-0, and that was for me personally, because they were a big name club at the time. That's probably my best goal.
And scoring with a minute left as well. The feeling of being a fan, when you see someone scoring a winner late on.
It probably wasn't my best goal, but it's probably the one that I remember most.
Amazing. And finally, if it's all, I want to wrap up one question, unless you've got something to add afterwards. But can you give me on the key trait that you took from professional football that you relate and you use in business? Right.
We sort of covered most of it, but I think the majority of it is managing people separately on an individual basis, working with their strengths, taking their strengths and sort of really sort of emphasising them and really sort of letting them blossom, and working on their weaknesses to bring them up and just help people, guide people, coach people, put an arm around people, and just be there and listen to them. Because, like I say, if anyone's got something on their mind or not performing properly, just be an olive branch to them, reach out and just also, since going into the world of business and networking and everything else, it's just making sure that we all work together. We all do a collaboration. Like I say, just congratulate people when they do well. You know, if someone's not doing so great, see if you can help them out in any way, and just sort of be there for people, be there for each other. There's enough of the pie to go around for everyone to have a piece of it.
Yeah.
And as long as we can all do that work, you know, collaborate in a good synergy, network together, work well together, then the world will be a good place. It'll be good for the economy and good for the community.
Great answers. You said one piece, didn't you?
Yeah.
Collaborate.
There was about 12 there.
Yeah, sorry.
we're gonna take collaborate out of that.
Yeah,
and
take
I'm gonna use
collaborate,
That
yeah.
is, mate, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Thanks,
I think
Kerry.
that's a great way to wrap up the new.
Yeah, nice one.
But mate, listen, thanks so much for coming on. It's been great to have you.
It's been good to
first
you,
guest.
Kerry.
And I feel honoured to be your first sports guest.
Mate,
Whee!
awesome. And gentlemen, as they say in the game, that is a wrap. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Cheers. Good night. Good night from me and good night from Bill.